When my dad told me he was remarrying, I tried to be happy for him. I really did. But when Sarah moved in, with her perfectly organized spice rack and her way of humming when she cooked, our house stopped feeling like my house. It became theirs. My room was my only sanctuary, a time capsule of life before the empty space at the dinner table was filled by a stranger, before my dad's laughter was shared with someone who wasn't my mom. Sarah tried, I'll give her that. She'd knock on my door, her voice a little too bright, asking about my day. It was fine, I'd mumble, my eyes glued to my phone, building a digital wall she couldn't climb. She'd suggest shopping trips, movie nights, baking cookies. Each offer felt like an attempt to erase my mom, to paint over her memory with new, saccharine-sweet ones. I wanted none of it. I wanted my old life back, the one where my world made sense. The tension was a thick fog in our home, a misplaced school book, a comment about my messy room. The way she cut sandwiches into triangles instead of rectangles like Mom did everything became a battleground. I'd retreat into silence, my anger a simmering pot with the lid clamped on tight. I saw the hurt in her eyes sometimes, a flicker of disappointment before she'd plaster in that patient smile. I told myself I didn't care. She wasn't my mother. She never would be. My dad was caught in the middle. He'd plead with me, just give her a chance, Lily. She's trying so hard. And then he'd go to her, and I'd hear their muffled voices through the walls, the sound of his tired sighs. I felt a twisted sense of victory mixed with a heavy dose of guilt. I was making everyone miserable, but the thought of letting Sarah in felt like a betrayal to my mom, to the family we once were. One rainy Saturday, I was holed up in my room, sketching in my old notebook. It was something my mom and I used to do together. I was trying to draw her from memory, her smile, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners, but the image was blurry, fading. Frustration burned in my throat. I crumpled the paper and threw the notebook across the room. It hit the door with a loud thud just as Sarah was knocking. The door creaked open. She saw the crumpled paper, the frustration on my face. I braced for a lecture about my attitude. Instead, she just looked at the notebook lying on the floor. She picked it up gently, her fingers tracing the worn cover. "You draw?" she asked, her voice soft, stripped of its usual cheerfulness. He just nodded, not trusting my voice. She opened it to a clean page, found a pencil on my desk, and sat on the edge of my bed. She didn't say anything for a long time. She just started to sketch. It wasn't a person, but a landscape. A quiet lake surrounded by tall pine trees, the water reflecting a cloudy sky. Her hand moved with a quiet confidence I'd never seen before. It was beautiful. Simple, but full of feeling. "My dad taught me," she said quietly, her eyes still on the page. "After my parents divorced, he said when you can't find the right words, sometimes a pencil can say it for you." She looked up at me, and for the first time, I didn't see a replacement mom or an intruder. I saw someone who might actually understand, someone who had her own story, her own quiet sorrows. I pulled my knees to my chest. "I was trying to draw my mom," I whispered. The words came out shaky, raw, but I can't remember her face perfectly anymore, and it scares me a tia primera. Did Enatino was there, slid down my cheek. "Sarah, didn't he say it is okay or ULLB? Fine." She just slid the notebook over to me. "Show me what you remember," she said. "We can draw it together." And so we did. I sketched the shape of her eyes. She helped with the curve of her smile. We didn't talk much, but the silence wasn't angry anymore. It was peaceful, shared. In the quiet space of my room, surrounded by pencil shavings and crumpled paper, we weren't stepmother and stepdaughter. We were just two people, finding a new way to speak the same language. That afternoon didn't magically fix everything. There were still awkward dinners and moments of misunderstanding, but something had shifted. The fog began to lift. When she'd knock on my door, I'd open it. When she'd ask about my day, I'd tell her more than just fine. We started spending Saturday afternoons drawing together. She'd show me techniques for shading, and I'd tell her stories about my mom, about the memories I was so afraid of losing, and she would really listen. One evening, I came home from school feeling completely drained. My dad was working late, and the house was quiet. I found Sarah in the kitchen, not humming, just staring into a pot on the stove. There was an open photo album on the counter. I glanced over and saw pictures of her with a man I didn't recognize. Her wedding photos. "Before us, my first husband," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "We were high school sweethearts. He passed away a few years ago." She pointed to a photo of them laughing on a beach. I was so afraid of forgetting his laugh. For a long time, I didn't think I could ever be happy again. She looked at me, her eyes shimmering. "Being here with your dad, it doesn't erase him. It just adds a new chapter. It's possible to hold both. You know, the past and the present." In that moment, I understood. Her trying so hard wasn't about replacing my mom. It was about creating space for something new, alongside the old. It was about her own fear of losing memories, of letting go and holding on at the same time. I walked over and, for the first time, I initiated the hug. I wrapped my arms around her, and she held me tight. It wasn't my mom's hug. It was different. It was Sarah's. And it was okay. It was more than okay. Our family is a mosaic, made of pieces from before and pieces we're creating now. It's not perfect or simple. It's messy and complicated, but it's real. My mom will always be a part of me, a part of our story. Her memory isn't a ghost in our house anymore. It's a gentle light. And Sarah isn't the stranger at the dinner table. She's the one who sits with me in the quiet, who knows that sometimes a pencil says more than words ever can. She is the one who taught me that a heart is big enough to hold more than one story, and a family is big enough to have more than one mom. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about connection and understanding. See you next time.